Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I wanted to go into more I wanted to dive in deeper when it comes to Ineffa, or Ineffa, however you say her name, Lunar Charge and Nod-Krai that is coming soon in Genshin Impact. Because I ain't gonna lie to you guys, bro, I am seeing a lot of people pretty much coping that when it comes to Nod-Krai is not going to be similar to Natlin when it comes to unique mechanics. Because when you take a look at Natlin and Fontaine and Natlin, they each had their own unique mechanic. In Fontaine, you had, I forgot what it's called, Numa and something else, but you guys remember it was like, light and dark. Fontaine characters are the only ones that can use those mechanics. And in Natlin, you have the Night Soul mechanic, and you also have the Phlogiston mechanic as well, which is pretty much going to enhance that character's exploration abilities. So to see that both nations back to back had a unique mechanic, and then right before Nod-Krai is releasing, there is a new elemental reaction called Lunar Charge. It's pretty obvious where Genshin Impact is going here. So we have this video over here of somebody pretty much explaining why Lunar Charge is going to be broken. Now, it's only 315 views, but this video got sent to me by one of my viewers, and he's pretty much explaining why he believes that Lunar Charge is going to get even more broken over time. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. It's 5 minutes long. And after we react to this video, I also wanted to, talk about something else and explain why I feel like when it comes to Genshin Impact and Nod-Krai, guys, it's gonna get worse, man. And I think a lot of people, they're just coping because they love this game so much. But we have to face reality, and we have to look at the track record when it comes to hoyoverse and how they handle their in-game content, how they handle these upcoming units. We just have to look at their past actions and understand that Nod-Krai is not better. So let's go ahead and watch this, and let's see what this person has to say.
So here's how the new reaction functions in Razor language. Okay, so Lunar Charged is the new reaction coming out in 5.8, which acts as a replacement for electrocharge in teams with Ineffa in them. Basically, having Ineffa in the team enables this reaction instead of the traditional electrocharge. But how exactly?
Yeah, let me go ahead and say it again. Ineffa. If you don't have Ineffa, Lunar Charge cannot activate, because a lot of people did not understand this. They're like, oh, can I just use Lunar Charge without Ineffa? No, you can't. She has to be on your team. If she is not on your team, it won't activate it. It won't activate. And she doesn't even have to use her skill or her burst. She's just simply on your team, and Lunar Charge will activate if you're using Electro and Hydro unit that is going to, if you're using an Electro and Hydro unit that's going to attack the enemy, it's going to change from Electro Charge to Lunar Charge.
Does this reaction function? Well, the base logic is the same, wherein you gotta apply electro and hydro on the enemy to trigger this reaction. But unlike electrocharge, which triggers a dot effect every 0.5 seconds, Lunar Charge summons a thundercloud instead, which does a thunder strike every 2 seconds, and the damage dealt is considered as Lunar Charge damage. Now,
yeah, so I saw this. So when it comes to Lunar Charge, it does proc every 2 seconds. So when it comes to Electro Charge procs faster. But the difference between Electro Charge and Lunar Charge is that Electro Charge is more of like an AoE elemental reaction. Meanwhile, when it comes to Lunar Charge is single target. So if you're going to ask me which elemental reaction is going to be more effective against bosses, I think it's going to be Lunar Charge, because it's single target. Meanwhile, when it comes to Electro Charge, it's literally AoE. And when it comes to AoE and single target enemies, it's just not going to work well. So Electrocharge, I feel like Electrocharge is going to be more effective against, AoE, like if you're having multiple enemy trash mobs. But let's be honest, guys, who's going to use Electrocharge to deal with enemy trash mobs when you have, Swirl, you have, let's say, Freeze, you have Vape, you have all these other elemental reactions that are just 10 times better. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. Lunar Charge, single target. Electrocharge, AoE.
this type of damage done by the thundercloud is what we call reaction lunar charge. However, there's another type called direct lunar charge that's way more busted, but we will discuss that later. So,
And that right there, now I did watch this video, but the direct lunar charge is very important, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand the difference between direct lunar charge damage and lunar charge reaction damage. but we're going to talk about that later.
Like I said, in reaction Lunar Charge, the Thundercloud deals damage every 2 seconds, but what exactly does this damage depend on? Well, you see, unlike other reactions which only rely on the stats of the unit who triggered the reaction, Lunar Charge can potentially consider all units in the team to calculate damage. But how exactly does that work, you ask? Well, you see, Lunar Charge takes into account the stats of all units who have applied an element to the enemy within the 2-second interval. Now, I know you must have heard by now that this reaction can crit, which, like I said in the beginning, is a scam. And the reason I say that will be clear after I explain how the damage is calculated with an example. So
Yeah, when it comes to Lunar Charge, it does scale off of the stats of all the characters on your team. Meanwhile, when it comes to things like Vape, it really just comes like Vape really just scales off of the character who's literally attacking the enemy that's infused with Hydro. That's pretty much how it works. So yeah, when it comes to Lunar Charge, like a lot of people are trying to pretend that Lunar Charge is not a different reaction to the point where they're trying to compare it to let's say Nilu Bloom. Now the thing about Nilu Bloom is that when it comes to Nilu Bloom, yes, Nilu Bloom is not just your normal Bloom, but it is still Bloom at the end of the day because Nilu Bloom, all she's doing is changing the cores. That's all she's doing. She's just changing the dendro cores, and that's it, right? She's not adding a different reaction. And when it comes to Ineffa and Lunar Charge is like a direct passive from Ineffa. It's a direct passive. It's not like an ascension talent because when you level up your characters in Genshin Impact, they have this thing called ascension talents. Meanwhile, when it comes to Ineffa, it's literally like in her, like you don't even have to level up the character. She can be level 1. You just put on your team, boom. As long as she's on the team, Lunar Charge will activate if you put a Hydron character together and attack the enemy. So Nilu Bloom and like what's her name? Ineffa Lunar Charge, it's not the same thing because Ineffa literally has Lunar Charge damage in her kit where she can directly deal Lunar Charge damage. And the fact that they said they're going to expand, not only I wouldn't say they're going to expand Lunar Charge, like they're going to expand Lunar Charge, like the reaction itself. I think they're going to like literally implement a whole new system in Nod-Krai called Lunar Period, where they're going to apply Lunar Vape, Lunar Geocrystallize. Like Lunar is going to be like the new mechanic in Nod-Krai.
let's consider a team of Chlorand, Xingqiu, Fischl, and Ineffa. Now, in this scenario, let's assume that within the 2-second interval, all 4 units applied an element to the enemy. Now, I want to direct your attention to the Lunar Charge formula. In this, the Ineffa passive
So that's the
variable
formula
is
for
any
the
percent damage increase to the reaction's base
reaction.
damage, which in this case is Ineffa's passive itself. And the second variable, other bonus, is essentially any reaction damage bonus besides bonuses to base damage like the signature weapon or the updated Thundering Fury set or even Aoife.
You see, and this is what I'm also talking about when it comes to Lunar Charge. Lunar Charge is not just like, oh, Lunar Charge elemental reaction damage. No, there are characters like Ineffa that literally deal Lunar Charge damage. That's why whenever people are trying to like downplay Lunar Charge and say, oh, it's a dog shit reaction, it's like, you do have to understand when it comes to Lunar Charge, it's not just the reaction damage that you have to take into account. You also have to take into account the charge damage, the direct damage from Lunar Charge that the character is actually dealing themselves. They're not relying on the reaction. Like they're actually dealing that direct damage from within their kit.
Passive. So going back to the example, since all 4 units had applied an element to the enemy, each unit's individual contribution is calculated based on the Lunar Charge formula. So let's assume these stats for each unit, and out of the 4...
All right, let me see these stats here. Because when it comes to like theory crafting, I can't stand when people put like unrealistic stats. So for his official, he put like 62% crit rate, 181% crit damage, 300 elemental mastery. Okay, that's definitely unrealistic. Chlorand, 74% crit rate, 206% crit damage, 20 EM. That's realistic. I mean, Chlorand is obviously like the main DPS unit here, so of course he's gonna have like the highest crit rate and crit damage. Ineffa, 65% and 170% crit rate and crit damage, 100 EM. Okay, this is realistic. And just to remind you guys, when it comes to Lunar Charge, yeah, it literally scales off of the stats your characters have. That's literally how Lunar Charge works. It can crit and it can scale off of the stats the characters have on the team. And of course, the more EM you have, the more damage Lunar Charge can deal because it is an elemental reaction, and elemental mastery increases elemental reaction damage.
Only Xingqiu is the one that does not crit in the reaction. By the way, whether or not what each individual unit crits in the reaction is based on the unit's own crit rate. Now, the game calculates the lunar charge damage of each unit based on these stats, and then the damage of
Holy, so much math, bro.
is sorted in descending order. After that, the final lunar charge damage is calculated by adding the highest damage with half of the second highest damage and 1/12 of the third and fourth highest damage. Now, this value we
So 23,000. So that's how much the elemental reaction, that's how much it's going to deal based off of the stats he had on these characters. 23,000 lunar charge elemental reaction, not direct lunar charge reaction damage, lunar charge reaction damage, 23k.
is what
That's
will
how
be
much
shown
damage the
whenever
reaction is going to
thundercloud
deal.
strikes, provided all units applied an element to the enemy, and only Xingqiu was the one that did not crit. Now, one interesting thing to note here is that the damage number shown in-game will either have a big font size indicating crit if even one of the units participating
Okay,
in
that's like common knowledge. Like if you play Genshin Impact, we all understand if the number is like big font, it means that you crit. If it's not big font, you didn't crit.
reaction crits, or a small font size indicating non-crit if all units didn't crit. And that's why I call lunar charge being able to crit a scam, because the reaction itself does not have any aggregate crit rate or anything like that. It's just a big or small font size based on whether at least one
Okay, that
unit
makes a
was
lot
able
of
to
sense.
crit or not. And if you have been enjoying this video so far, then a sub to the channel would
I ain't gonna lie, this video is really good, man.
make you win every 50-50. And if you
I'ma
want
like
to support
this.
even more, scroll 2 inches down this video and click the subscribe plus button to join the channel memberships and gain exclusive perks like directly DMing me.
Now, let me
It's
skip
called
this.
direct
All right,
lunar
let's go.
charge, and it's named as such because of the fact that it's not directly reliant on hydro or electro characters in the team. In fact,
Bingo. So that's literally what I was talking about when it comes to direct lunar charge damage. Direct lunar charge damage doesn't rely on the hydro and electro characters on your team. Direct lunar charge damage is the character that is directly dealing lunar charge damage. And that's what a lot of people are not taking into account when it comes to lunar charge. They're trying to downplay it to, oh, the reaction damage is just terrible. And it's like, you do understand that there's only one person in the game that can actually trigger this new reaction, and that is Ineffa. So if you're talking about lunar charge, you have to include Ineffa into the equation, because if you don't include Ineffa, then like it doesn't make any sense. It's just illogical. If you're gonna talk about the reaction damage but exclude Ineffa, then how can you trigger the reaction without Ineffa? Like, she needs to be in the team in order for the reaction damage to actually happen. And on top of that, you have direct lunar charge damage that is directly coming from Ineffa's passive.
this is what Ineffa's passive actually is. To give you a quick recap of her abilities, Ineffa's skill summons a mini robot which deals damage to the enemy every 2 seconds. However, thanks to her passive, an additional hit is dealt along with the skill hit every 2 seconds if there is a lunar charge thundercloud on the field. And this
So it's lunar charge reaction damage plus lunar charge damage. A direct lunar charge damage from Ineffa's passive. So you're pretty much adding both together.
additional damage is considered as lunar charge damage, thus the name direct lunar charge, since it's occurring directly without relying on hydro or electro characters per se. Now,
Correct.
if you take a look at its damage formula, you will find that it straight up has a 3x multiplier, and just like reaction lunar charge, it also ignores the enemy's defense, which is just massive.
And that's another thing too that a lot of people did not know. Yes, lunar charge can directly ignore the enemy's defense, something that electrocharge cannot do. So yeah, lunar charge, it can ignore the enemy's defense.
So in our example,
Which is gonna be
Ineffa
huge.
will only contribute 6k damage to reaction lunar charge, while direct lunar charge damage will literally be 4 times of that, being 25,000. And if you have been listening to what I have been yapping, you would have figured out by now
That's
that
like
Ineffa
around like
and
50K.
lunar charge go hand in hand, meaning you can't talk
50,
about one without
53K,
talking about the other.
55K.
And this is why I say that lunar charge is insane, because if you combine both reaction and direct lunar charge, you're getting a respectable damage of 50k per tick, and that's in a subpar team with stats I made the fuck up.
Yeah, the stats he literally used are just random, bro. It's just random stats.
So right now there is no
So it can
dedicated
be way higher, right? It could be way higher. That's why I'm saying a lot of people are trying to like make it seem as if lunar charge is dog shit so that they can simply cope and try to pretend like it's not going to be a problem in the future.
artifact
And we're going to
set
explain
or
how this can be a problem in the future.
character in game which can buff lunar charge directly, which means that in the future the reaction will be receiving substantial buff, at least if some suspicious dreams are to be believed, which means that its damage at the moment is literally at its bare minimum and will go
Even further beyond
in the future. And that's
Not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Good video, man. Good video. So yeah, man, it's like that's really what it comes down to. It's like so many people trying to downgrade this, trying to like make it seem as if, oh, it's nothing that deep. You're just trying to like, you're just, trying to hate on the game. It's like, no, dude, no. It's just facts, bro. When it comes to Lunar Charge, it's not just the reaction damage. It's the character also dealing that direct damage, which means that Lunar Charge is not just you relying on characters on your team to trigger that reaction. No, the character also has Lunar Charge direct damage within their kit, and that character is Ineffa. Now, what I also wanted to talk about here, so apparently when it comes to the Thundering Fury set, so you guys can see when it comes to Thundering Fury, it says over here, electro damage bonus plus 15%, and it says increases damage caused by overload, electrocharge, super conduit, and hyper bloom by 40%, and the damage bonus conferred by aggravate is increased by 20%. So Thundering Fury, by the way, is the only artifact set in the game that can actually increase electrocharge damage. But in 5.8, I'm actually surprised the fact that they didn't include this in their live stream, but in 5.8, they are going to implement Lunar Charge damage increase in the Thundering Fury set. So I'm actually surprised that they didn't include that in the live stream. But yeah, in 5.8, I think they are going to implement Lunar Charge increase and Thundering Fury set, because Lunar Charge is like, a reaction that includes Electro. So just want to, point that out. But when we do take a look at Ineffa and her like top teams, so of course you're gonna put her with Electro, of course, and units. But another thing I wanted to include, right? So the fact that Ineffa, when you put in your team, she's going to create this thundercloud, and when she creates this thundercloud, if Hydro and Electro units, if they attack the enemy, then it's going to summon the thundercloud that's going to deal Lunar Charge damage. Now, some people are saying that, oh, there's going to be a 4-star character in 6.0, and maybe that unit is going to activate Lunar Charge. And it's like, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense, because when you do take a look at Ineffa's kit, I don't know why they didn't include it over here, but I'm going to go in and put Ineffa's kit here. There we go. So Ineffa's kit, and I think it was over here. There it is. So you guys can see it says, if there are thunderclouds created by Lunar Charge reaction. Actually, no, that's not it. That's not it. I'm looking at the wrong one over here. I hate when they do this, man. There it is. So it says Moon Sign Benediction Assemblage whatever. Now, honestly, it seems like this is going to be for Nod-Krai characters, because the fact that it says Moon Sign Benediction. Anyways, let's continue. It says when a party member triggers an electrocharge reaction, it will be converted into the Lunar Charge reaction with every 100 attack that Ineffa has, increasing Lunar Charge base damage by 0.7% up to a maximum of 14%. And it says over here, further blessings may follow the moon's rise. So remember when they said in the live stream that they're going to expand, Lunar Charge and Nod-Krai? This is literally what's in the Passover over here. They're pretty much hinting that more is yet to come when it comes to this reaction. So they also didn't include the thundercloud that she summons. But back to the whole, oh, there's going to be a 4-star Electro unit that's going to activate charge, speculation. First of all, when it comes to Lunar Charge, a thundercloud is being summoned, right? A thundercloud is being summoned. It wouldn't make sense for another 4-star character to summon another thundercloud that's going to deal Lunar Charge damage, because if that's the case, then let's say they release another unit after that 4-star character that's going to activate Lunar Charge. That's going to be like fucking 3 thunderclouds. You know what I'm saying? 3 thunderclouds that's going to deal Lunar Charge damage. Like at this point, you're just not going to do anything, and you're just going to let these thunderclouds deal all the damage for you. So the possibility of that 4-star unit activating Lunar Charge, or like, changing Electrocharge to Lunar Charge, I don't think it's going to happen, right? I think instead of them activating Lunar Charge, they're simply going to increase Lunar Charge damage. And when we take a look at her weapon over here, it literally says, after an elemental skill or elemental burst is used, attack is increased by 24%. Fuck on my computer. Anyways, if the equipping character creates a shield while this effect is active, it will gain the electrifying addict after 20 seconds. All nearby party members deal 40% more lunar charge damage. Now, when it comes to this though, somebody can correct me down in the comment section down below, but I don't know if they mean like, let's say you put Ineffa on your team and, you know, the character, whichever hydro or electro that you're using, they trigger lunar charge, right? I don't think they're talking about the reaction damage. I think they're talking about the direct damage. So let's say there's going to be a future upcoming character that can deal lunar charge damage, right? Not the reaction damage, but actual direct lunar charge damage. I think that's what this means. Like, she is going to increase direct lunar charge damage, not the reaction damage. Well, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section now. But you guys can see that when it comes to the lunar charge reaction, there are, like, when it comes to Ineffa's kit, you have her weapon that's increasing lunar charge damage. You have her passive that is also increasing lunar charge damage, you know, based off of her attack. And when you take a look at her first constellation, it literally says, when Ineffa activates her optical flow shield barrier, all nearby party members will gain the carrier flow compensate effect for 20 seconds, increases lunar charge damage by 2.5% for every 100 attack Ineffa has, up to a maximum of 50%. So she's going to provide a total of like 90%, actually not even 90%, 104% lunar charge damage increase from her weapon, her passive, and her first constellation. Plus you have the Thunder and Fury set. They're going to add lunar charge in the Thunder and Fury set as well. Now, when we take a look over here at Genshin Impact, so remember guys, when it comes to Ineffa, her passive, she can pretty much convert electrocharge to lunar charge. And once again, it is not an ascension talent, it is a passive talent. So we look at Raiden Shogun over here. You know, when it comes to passive talents, it's more like, you know, more expended when ascending swords and polearms is decreased by 50%. You know, that's her passive. We look at some Natlan characters here. When you look at Natlan characters, when it comes to their passive, right? Their passive is always the party's night soul transmission cooldown is decreased by 20%. That's from Avwika. So when it comes to Natlan units, their passive, it always revolves around their own unique mechanic, which is like Night Soul Burst, Phlogiston, or, you know, let's just say, yeah, pretty much those two. So seeing how Ineffa, she has the ability to change electrocharge to lunar charge within her passive, I don't think there's going to be another character that can do the same exact thing as her. That just wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. Plus, when you do take a look at the 6.0 units, they showed the Dendro Deer Girl in the fucking trailer. A lot of people are speculating that she is going to have some sort of lunar hyper bloom reaction. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that they're pretty much giving these Nod-Krai characters the ability to change old reactions to a new reaction, pretty obvious that that's going to be the exclusive mechanic. That's going to be the trend for Nod-Krai characters. They're going to have, it's either the unit is going to deal lunar damage or the unit is going to activate a brand new elemental reaction. It's probably going to be lunar vape, lunar melt, lunar geocrystallize, lunar swirl, and etc. Now let's go ahead and talk about why this is going to be a problem. You guys should already understand by now how Genshin Impact is handling these future upcoming units and these future bosses. These future bosses have a mechanic that specific characters can interact with. They've been doing this a lot recently in Natlan. You guys remember when people were coping and assuming that they weren't going to implement that pillar boss in Spiral Abyss? Well, guess what? They still did. They implemented the pillar boss in Spiral Abyss. The Cryo Automaton, right? You have to use Cryo against that boss. They put that in Spiral Abyss 2 and Stygian Onslaught. Lava Dragon, you need Burning in order for you to interact with that boss. So it's pretty obvious where Genshin is going with this, you know, boss mechanic shilling where specific units can interact with boss mechanic. Now, when we take a look at the lunar elemental reaction, I wouldn't be surprised if they implement a boss where they're like, oh, they're going like this boss is going to have a shield, and the only way you can counter that shield is if this character deals lunar charge damage or lunar hyper bloom damage. That's where the problem comes in. And you can't say that it's unreasonable to assume that because it's already fucking happened. It already happened. You look at all these bosses. Let me see if I can look at the archive over. I'm not taking a photo, man. It's controller and fucking stick drift. There we go. So we take a look at the archive over here. We take a look at all these monsters. So let me scroll. Are they where are the bosses at? Come on. There we go. Okay, so when we take a look at all these bosses here, right? Lava Dragon, you need burning to deal with that. You look at what's another boss that also has another mechanic? Let me see. I didn't unlock all these bosses because I didn't feel like fighting them. Like, I'm not trying to fight these bosses whatsoever. You have this boss where you need to, like, you know, use pyro because you want to get rid of those clones, right? So the fact that they have these bosses that have these mechanics, why in the fuck am I going to sit here and delude myself into thinking that, oh, they're implementing a lunar charge reaction. Let me go ahead and sit here and play pretend that they're not going to create a boss that's going to revolve around lunar charge reaction. And by the way, guys, spoiler alert, in version 5.8, there is going to be a boss that is going to revolve around lunar charge and electrocharge. Now, yes, it is good the fact that they are going to include electrocharge, but at the same time, when it comes to electrocharge reaction, it's fucking trash, bro. Electrocharge is trash, especially against bosses because it is an AoE reaction. Nobody in their right fucking mind is going to use electrocharge against a fucking boss. And let's say they put that boss in Stingy and Onslaught. You have 2 minutes to clear a boss that probably has 10 million HP. And you're gonna use electrocharge to deal with that boss? No, you're not gonna do that. You're probably gonna use the new elemental reaction that, guess what, has single target damage. I wouldn't say single target damage, is more just single target versus AoE. And when we take a look at the Obsidian Codex artifact and how this artifact only shields Natlin units because of the Night Soul mechanic, like, come on, guys, the answer is right there in your face. The chances of them dropping an artifact very similar to Obsidian Codex, but it's for Nod-Krai characters and for the new Nod-Krai mechanic that I'm assuming they're going to introduce, since we do have the Lunar Charge mechanic that a Nod-Krai unit can activate. Like, guys, the answer is there in your face, bro. The answer is right there. It's obvious what the plan is moving forward when it comes to Impact. But I think these people, they just want to dilute themselves into thinking that, oh, dude, it's just fine, man. It's fine. We're just going to use the reaction damage only and compare that to electrocharge and cope that electrocharge is just better. And it's like, buddy, you do understand that there is not a single character in this fucking game that can deal electrocharge damage. And I'm not talking about the reaction damage. I'm talking about direct electrocharge damage. There's not a single unit in this game that can deal direct electrocharge damage. You look at every single electro unit in the game. We look at Fischl over here. Fischl does not deal electrocharge damage. She deals electro damage only. Take a look at Cyno. Cyno deals electro damage. Raiden Shogun, right? Bro, damage. What is another electro unit? Daimiko. Electro damage. So you guys see that when it comes to electrocharge, electrocharge doesn't have a unit that can deal direct electrocharge. Maybe there's going to be a unit in the future that can do that, but it's literally like, we're about to be in version 5.8. The chance of them dropping a character that's going to do electrocharge damage is really, really low. Possibility that it might happen, but are they seriously going to focus on electrocharge versus their brand new mechanic called Lunar? I doubt it. So in conclusion, Hoyo is pretty much giving you guys a sneak peek as of what's yet to come when it comes to Nod-Krai's exclusive mechanic, and trust and believe me, it's not going to get any better, because what makes this even worse is that when it comes to old electro units, they're not dealing lunar charge damage. I just showed you guys. They're not dealing lunar charge damage. The chances of them changing, let's say, not even changing, but adding lunar charge damage in Cyno's kit, Raiden Shogun's kit, Fischl's kit, it's not going to happen. The only thing that these all the characters are benefiting from, the only thing that they're going to benefit from when it comes to Lunar Charge is the reaction damage. That's all they're going to benefit from. But when it comes to direct damage, that's going to come from future upcoming Nod-Krai characters that are going to deal direct lunar damage. First one is Ineffa. The community has been asking the devs forever, hey man, can you guys buff Crystallize? Because let's be honest guys, Crystallize is one of the worst reactions in the fucking game. Not even one of the worst, it is the worst. You're just creating a shield and that's it. It's fucking dog shit. So instead of them buffing that reaction, let's say Crystallize can, I don't know, reduce the enemy's resistance, right? That might be too broken out. But give, you know, Crystallize something good, right? So Geo characters can actually pop off. Instead of them doing that, they're going to take the opportunity to create a whole new reaction that is locked behind, let's say, a 5-star character or a 4-star unit. Now, if it is locked behind a 4-star character, you still have to summon for that 4-star unit. And let's be honest, guys, when it comes to getting a specific 4-star character in Genshin Impact or in any gacha game, it's fucking hard. There is no pity. It's just fucking random. So no matter how many times you try to like cope and try to like pretend as if this is issue, there is always a problem you can find when it comes to this whole new mechanic that they're going to introduce in Nod-Krai. Now, I will give credit where credit is due when it comes to Genshin Impact and their 4-star characters, because in WoWa, they rarely release 4-star units, and it's really annoying. So that's one of my biggest complaints when it comes to WoWa, is just them not releasing 4-star characters. It's really annoying, but I'm pretty sure they're going to release more soon. So yeah, I am going to give Genshin credit where credit is due when it comes to that. But at the same time, when it comes to mechanics, right? When it comes to mechanics, you do have to worry about that in Genshin Impact. Meanwhile, in WoWa, you don't have to worry about mechanics, right? You can just use whichever character you want to just defeat that boss, and that's it. You don't have to use negative status to, you know, defeat a boss that is only immune to negative status damage, or you don't have to use negative status to, I don't know, break a boss or use negative status to destroy a boss's shield. You don't need to do that. Meanwhile, in Genshin Impact, you got to use cryo against this boss to, you know, stun the boss and remove their fucking resistance, or you got to use burning to like make this boss explode and it can do a lot more damage and the resistance decreases, or you got to use, you know, let's say a Natling character to climb fucking pillars. You know what I'm saying? So that's the main issue when it comes to Genshin Impact and their boss mechanics. Even though they do give a lot of 4-star units, you are still forced to use specific units to interact with these dumbass mechanics. And you guys remember Kachina, right? How all the Hoyo shows were coping and saying, dude, just use Kachina. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to use Kachina, and yeah, she is for free, but she is a dog shit unit. She's a dog shit character. Like, I'm really crippling my team just to interact with the dumbass mechanic. That's the problem. So if they do implement a 4-star unit that can actually activate a lunar elemental reaction, cool, right? Cool. And if that unit is for free, great. Really, really great. But once again, that elemental reaction is not universal and is not accessible to every unit in the game. It's not the same as, let's say, Vape, Melt, or any other elemental reaction that you can just simply activate if you have the required elemental characters on your team. You have to have that specific unit to actually trigger that elemental reaction. And let's say there's a boss that is like not immune to lunar reaction damage, but it's immune to every other damage, and you have to use that 4-star character that they gave you, but at the same time that 4-star character is pretty dog shit. You're just using them just so that they can activate that new reaction mechanic. That's where the problem comes in, because it already happened before, and that was Kachina, right? People were just using Kachina to climb that stupid pillar, but what else is she really doing? Every single time Genshin Impact they implement bosses in Spiral Abyss and or Stingy and Onslaught, they're always going to put in a character that is going to directly counter these bosses. You take a look at these bosses over here. Right, we take a look at the bosses in first half. Secret Source Automaton, Overseer Device. Guess what? Skirk was in phase 1. Oh, you didn't summon for that character? Well, go fuck yourself. You don't have a Scofier? Up, go fuck yourself. Shinha? Go fuck yourself. They put that in first half, right? And look at the buff for first half. Cryo damage dealt by all party members will be increased by 75%. You look at Chamber 2. You look at the enemies in second half. You have Eroding Avatar of Lava. These monsters pretty much revolve around Pyro. And guess who is on banner right now? have Emily and Mavwika both on banner right now, and it can pretty much do the whole burning elemental reaction. You look at chamber 3, you have this fat ass fucking monkey over here in second half. I don't even know what that is, teddy bear. And then for first half, we have these Natlin enemies who can drain your energy to 0. And guess which unit can benefit from enemies who drain your energy? Guess which character isn't affected by that whatsoever? You guessed it, Mavwika. And you look at the buff for second half, it says all party members' Night Soul aligned damage will be increased by 75%. All the signs are literally there, and you guys are literally playing this game every single fucking day. But once they release the Lunar mechanic, let's just sit here and play pretend and act like this is not what Hoyo is trying to do. Let's sit here and pretend that Hoyo, they're trying to be good people. Let's sit and pretend that Hoyo, there's absolutely no way they're doing this for money, right? There's no way they're doing this just so that you can, you know, take out that wallet and summon for these characters. There's no way, right? What a shocker. Let's stop playing stupid and let's accept reality. Yeah, man, I'm really interested to see what the comments are going to look like under this video. I will say in the recent Lunar Charge video I dropped a day ago, some of the comments I was like, are these real? Like, some of the counter arguments you guys were bringing up were really, really bad. Like, I saw somebody bring up resistance shred as a way to negate that this new elemental reaction can be a problem in the future. And it's like, resistance shred, you literally can use 2 artifacts that reduce animal resistance and dendro resistance. Plus, there's not a single boss in this game that relies on like a resistance shred unit to like interact with, let's say, the mechanic the boss has. Like, let's say this boss has a resistance shred meter. Like, that doesn't exist in the fucking game. So comparing resistance shred to elemental reaction, which is like the core mechanic in Genshin Impact, makes absolutely no fucking sense. They're just not on the same level in terms of like importance, right? When it comes to elemental reactions, bosses do have mechanics that are shield to elemental reactions and elements. So the whole resistance shred point was completely garbage. And somebody also brought up Traverse, and I was like, nigga, Traverse is not making a new reaction, bro. She's just buffing Overload. That's it. And other people would bring up Nilou Bloom, and when it comes to Nilou Bloom, the devs never promised to expand Nilou Bloom. That's why she is still the only character in the fucking game. It's been like 2 years and they did nothing with Nilou Bloom. A lot of people were assuming that they were going to do something with Nilou Bloom, but they didn't. She's the only one that can do that because that's just something she can do herself. She can only do that because it's in her kit. So the Nilou Bloom point is also mute as well, because there's not a single boss in this game that revolves around Nilou Bloom, and they're going to use that as a mechanic to, like, you know, shield Nilou Bloom, right? It just doesn't make any sense. So hopefully you guys actually bring up some decent points in this video that is open up to, you know, discussion. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys have a good one, and I'll be catch you guys on the next one. Adios.